Welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, and capital raisers in the world to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and contribution. If what you're after is having it all, if what you desire is becoming the best version you can be across all areas, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sentimentally, and financially, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best of the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, knowledge, experience, and skills so that you can go out and crush it financially and across all areas of your life. Grab pencil and paper, sit back, enjoy, and you are welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. I'm super excited today because I have Ryan Hernandez. He's a wealth strategist, investor, and teaches people how to build wealth. And Ryan, thank you very much for being here, man. I really appreciate you, and you're welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you so much, Alex. I definitely appreciate you asking me to come on and speak, and I'm very excited to get to know you a little bit more and to answer some of the questions that you have for me.
Awesome. And so the first thing that I do actually with my guests is I ask them to walk us through their real estate investing journey and
Okay.
entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less.
Okay. Perfect. Cool. So, um, really, the way that I got into real estate is I knew that I wanted to accumulate a lot of wealth, and I found out that 90% of millionaires in America were through real estate. So that caught my eye right away. And during COVID, Clubhouse really started to become a huge networking platform that a lot of people were using. And then I met a lot of people through there. And at that point, I got into financial services and wealth management, built up a large portfolio into that, started to make a lot of money. Then I transferred that into syndication deals. I grew a mastermind, and I also do capital raising for syndication deals as well.
Hmm. So it all started in financial services, so like insurance
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah. Insurance. Yep.
So I see that you talk a lot about IULs, man. Can you tell me a
Hmm.
little bit about what an IUL is and
Yeah.
how is it that what's the best way to one of the best ways to use it to build wealth?
Yeah, absolutely. So, an IUL is cash value life insurance. So, a lot of people actually don't know that you can earn interest tax free with zero market risk inside of life insurance. A lot of people just think of term life. When you pass away, your kids get cut a check, right?
Yeah.
But that's not how the 1% elite wealthy use life insurance. They use it as an investment vehicle, and that's what I specialize in is high cash value IULs to accumulate cash value and accumulate wealth tax free. And I would say that the way that most people use it is they just contribute X amount of dollars into it per year or per month. And that money again is earning a high yield of interest, and you're able to actually borrow the money out of there in the form of a loan. And a lot of real estate investors use this for fix and flips. They use it for syndication deals. A lot of my clients actually, it works out perfectly. They come out, they reach out to me. They have 100,000, 300,000, a large amount of money that's just sitting in the bank. Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
That is just like sitting inside of the bank, and they want to be able to go ahead and have that money work for them. So they throw it into an IUL, earns interest, they borrow against it, and then throw that money into a syndication deal.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah. Is an IUL basically a tool that could allow you to be your own bank? How would that work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you wanted to be your own bank, well, first let's understand what the banks do with our money. So the banks take our money and they do what we should be doing with our money, and they go put it into other income producing assets. But because they don't teach Americans or most countries, they don't teach about financial literacy or how to actually maximize your dollar. People are financially illiterate. They don't know what to do with their money. So they just do what everybody else does, and they just throw it into the bank. Then the
Yeah.
bank takes our money, they fractionalize it, and they go invest it into a bunch of different places. And they are making trillions of dollars, and they are making a ton of interest and paying us 1% interest. So we're actually giving a less than 1% interest loan to the bank, and then they're doubling on our dollar, you know. So to be your own bank, we're just going to copy what the banks are doing. So we're going to fund an IUL. We're going to put our money into an IUL, and then from there, now we have become our own bank because we have control over where we're going to put our money. A lot of my clients choose commercial multifamily syndication deals. Others of my clients, they'll take the money out of their IUL and they'll go buy a car wash with it, and they'll go scale a car wash portfolio, and they'll keep rinsing and repeating this process. So for example, with that like car wash example, you take money out of your IUL, go purchase a car wash with that. Your car wash is cash flowing X amount of dollars per month. You repay that loan, you have that established cash value in the IUL again, and you just rinse and repeat. And you just keep doing it over and over and over again. Same thing with fix and flips. Same thing with scaling and buying, laundromats. Whatever income producing asset you want, the IUL allows you to scale that faster, safer, and smarter.
So you can take loans from your own IUL. How does that work,
Yes.
man? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that that works is whatever X amount of dollars that you're putting inside of the IUL, you are then
Let's say
you have
$100.
that. Yeah, let's say like $100,000, right? You have a
Yeah.
100,000 or $100 sitting inside of your IUL. And so what's going to happen is that the insurance company is going to give you a line of credit up to the equivalent amount of money. So if
Okay.
you have $100 in your IUL, they're going to give you a line of credit for $100. If you have $100,000 in there, they're going to give you a line of credit of 100,000. So now your $100,000 is sitting in the IUL, earning interest tax-free with zero micro risk. And now you can use
How much
the
interest?
tool. Well, it depends on the type of IUL. There are IULs with caps. There are IULs without caps. There are IULs with
Hmm.
multipliers. There are IULs that do not have multipliers, right? And so for me personally, the 30-year historical average on the illustrated rate for our IUL is 17.5% interest, which is very
Really?
high.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have caps. We have a 2.7 times multiplier that gets added to our policies. And so, just a disclaimer though, that's not what the index strategy is performing at. The actual index strategy that your money is tied to inside the IUL performs at about 5 to 6% or so. But after the multiplier, 17.5% is what the average that gets paid into the cash value ends up being.
Hmm. Okay.
And then, yeah,
So what's a multiplier, man?
like a participation rate.
Okay.
So for example, depending on which indice you decide to tie your money to, inside the IUL, there's different participation rates. And so if for example if the participation rate is 270%, then that's the equivalent to a 2.7 times multiplier. So whatever interest that you're earning that year, then the insurance company comes in and they'll just times that interest by 2.7, and then that's what ends up getting paid into your cash value.
All right. So the interest thing is cleared up. All right. So let's go back to the example. $100,000 in your IOL. You have an equivalent line of credit for $100,000. And then
Mhm.
what? You can take.
And then now you can leverage something called OPM that I'm sure you're very familiar with, being in real estate, other people's money. So now you can leverage the life insurance carrier's money while your money continues to sit inside of the IUL earning interest, which is where the
Really?
name infinite banking came from.
That's crazy, right?
And yeah, so now you're being your own bank because you're giving yourself loans instead of
Uh-huh.
having to go to the bank and ask them for a loan. There's no credit checks. There's no qualifying for the loan. None of that. You literally log into your online portal, initiate the loan, the money's there in 1 to 2 business days.
That's
And then you can
crazy.
take that money and then you could put it down as a down payment for a fix and flip, or you could use that money as a rehab for a fix and flip, or you can use that money to invest into a syndication deal. Whatever it is that you want to use it for, you're able to use it for that.
Hmm. That's awesome, man. So you help people learn about this tool, use this
Mhm.
tool to as a way for them to build wealth. And then you also have Rush Capital Partners, I believe.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So I'm also a capital raiser as well, for syndication deals. And so I do that quite a bit. I make some content talking about, people who need a K1 and all those sorts of things. If you're looking to, reduce your taxable income, then, I always recommend syndication deals.
So a very clear path that I see, that you logically probably take is anyone who wants to anyone who you help get an IUL, then you can help them invest in real estate with them by being their own bank, right? And then vice versa.
Absolutely.
Anyone who wants to invest in real estate, you first give them an IUL so that they can put their money to work in an IUL and then also put their money to work in real estate. Is that something that you could do or that you do with your clients?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is 100% what I do. Yeah, absolutely. So
So,
a lot
so
of
the people
people
who
like,
let me tell you who the people that listen to this podcast are, man. The people that listen to this podcast are real estate investors that are active or passive. Many of
right.
them do not know yet, right? But they know that they want to use real estate as their wealth creation vehicle. So,
Hmm.
tell me a little bit more. Like with that in mind, go ahead and like tell me more about that investing strategy that we just touched on right now.
Right, right. Yeah. So this is very common for me. I have tons of people who reach out to me and they're like, Ryan, I want to get into real estate, but I just don't have the money for it. Like, and I'm not good at budgeting. How my money is sitting in a savings account is earning less than 1% interest. It's not even outpacing inflation. What can I do? Right. And so one thing that we do is that we will go ahead and place you into an IUL and you'll be saving X amount of dollars per month. Right. And essentially, we build out a plan. So after 12 months, you can start borrowing out of the IUL. But we look at, where do you want to invest? What type of properties are you looking to get into? How much cash are you going to need liquid from the IUL to actually execute and start this investment path that you want to have, which is real estate? And so we will run that illustration, and then we're like, okay, based on our projections, you're going to have X amount of dollars that you'll be able to borrow out in 3 years to now purchase this property. And so that's the first thing that we set up for them, because it just comes out of their bank account every single month or every year, depending on how they want to set that up.
Okay.
And then from there, once that time comes, they initiate that loan, and then they begin that process of that rinse and repeating process of scaling and making their portfolio larger.
Hmm. So they get a loan from their IOL. They use that loan to, while their money is still earning interest, they use
Yes.
that loan to invest in real estate and make money in real estate. And then they make their capital grow, and then you can put it back into your IOL to make that investment bigger and earn more interest. Is that how it works?
Absolutely. Yeah, you just explained the infinite banking concept. Yeah.
And that's why it's called infinite banking concept. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
That's awesome, man. So let's see. What did I wanted to ask? Well, why do people don't know about it, man? Like, why is it so rare?
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
that's a
it's not
great
rare.
question. Well,
Yeah.
well, the IUL is a relatively new product. It's only been around since 1997 is when it was first invented. And so other types of financial vehicles that people use, like the 401k and the IRA, those have been around for much, much, much longer. And those are just kind of vehicles that everyone uses, right? It's just like, hey, you're going to put money away, you're going to use a 401k.
Yeah.
The IUL is used a lot more when you start talking to people who are way more financially savvy, people who are financially literate, people who, have a CPA or they have, XYZ, right? Because you're not really going to find the IUL unless you do some due diligence, you do some digging, and you're trying to optimize your finances, which is how a lot of people actually find me. Is they'll be doing research on how can I outpace inflation? How can I, optimize my dollar and all these things, and then you kind of you find it. Another big reason too is just because the IUL is a direct competitor with mutual funds and index funds and the 401k and the Roth IRA. Direct competitor, because at the end of the day, um, when you place money into a vehicle, either it's going to be a vehicle that a life insurance agent is supplying, or it's going to be a financial vehicle that a financial professional or like a financial advisor is supplying, right? And so we kind of deter each other away from each other's products for that reason.
Hmm. Okay.
And
Yeah.
then it kind of
That's
turns
really
into
interesting.
like a little battle of like, he
What's
said this
better?
about this, or he said
Yeah.
this about this. What's better? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
So,
people can
man,
make that same argument with people like, oh, multifamily is better, single family is better. But like at the end of the day, they're both good in their own ways. It's just about what specifically matters for you. What are you trying to achieve, right?
so you mentioned how you're able to borrow from your IUL within 12 months of starting it. So I have a couple of
Hmm.
questions. Um, So the last question, I'm gonna tell you the last question first because that's like ultimately what I want to know. What would be like the
Right.
best IUL or the IUL that you recommend? You mentioned how there's different types of IUL. That is the
Mhm.
last question. But the first question is, how can you get started with an IUL? Like, do you mention you can pay every year or you can pay on a monthly basis? My question to you is, can you get started by just like, let's say that you already have some capital sitting in the bank.
Mhm.
Could you go into an IUL and just put it all into it, and then you still have to
Absolutely.
wait 12 months, or how would it work?
Yeah, so you can definitely do a lump sum.
Yeah.
And so what's nice about doing a lump sum is that you do have access to that lump sum after 30 days. But if you are contributing monthly, then you're gonna have to go ahead and wait that 12 months, because it's gonna take you 12 months to actually pay that annual amount, right? And so, because at the end of the year you want to borrow, let's just say 24,000. Well, you have to wait the 12 months to actually put in 2,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
Before you get to that 24. Or what happens all the time is I always have people who hop on Zoom with me and they're like, "Hey, I have 100,000 in the bank, or I have 50,000 in the bank. I want to do that as a lump sum, and then I also want to do like 1,000 a month, and that's what I want to contribute every year. I'm gonna be putting in 12,000, which means my account's gonna be growing by 12,000 every year. I'm gonna be earning interest on that amount, and then I'm gonna start borrowing from that. Whenever, whether 30 days, 12 months, whenever they really want it, they have access to it.
Mm-hmm. So, in an example, so does the lump sum have to be a certain amount of money in order for you to be able to start borrowing from it in 30 days?
No, it doesn't have to be any specific type of amount.
Okay. And then, is there a limit? So, for example, let's say that I come and I wanted to do a $100,000 lump sum into an IUL, and I would
Mhm.
also want to do monthly payments as well to keep my money growing. In 30 days, I could potentially borrow $100,000 from my account. Am I getting you right?
Yes.
And then let's say that I use those $100,000 to make money in my business, in a car wash or real estate or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and then I turn those $100 and 100,000 into 200,000 within 3 months. Can I put another 200,000? Well, pay back the 100,000 that I borrowed, right? And then put another 100,000 into the IOL.
Yeah, so that's where the structure of the policy really, really, really has a key point in how you're going to be able to maneuver and leverage the policy. So, when you actually put in like $100,000 lump sum, after 30 days, you're gonna have access with the specific companies and the way that we structure it. You're gonna get access to about 85 to 90% of that 100,000. So you're only
Got
gonna be
it.
able to take out about 85 to 90,000 after
Mm-hmm.
those like 30 days, right? Then, in terms of wanting to turn 100K into 200K, throw it back into the policy right away, these are all things that we're going to want to forecast prior to actually solidifying the policy, because we want to make sure that there's enough room in the policy to allow for that capital to enter into the policy, because there are parameters to how you structure it, simply due to the fact that you have to have a certain amount of death benefit to have the policy be deemed as life insurance and not an investment, so it stays
Mm.
tax free, right? Because eventually, if you have too low of a death benefit and there's way too much capital in the policy, it's no longer classified as life insurance. It's classified now as a modified endowment contract or an investment. And then therefore you kind of lose all of the perks of it being underneath the umbrella of life insurance. So really all it comes down to is just communication with your agent. What are you looking to do? What do you expect the profits to be from that income producing asset? Let's actually think in the future and structure this policy to anticipate X amount of dollars going into the policy so that we don't run into any issues in the future. It all comes down to communication.
That's awesome, man. Well, yeah, it's been really interesting. Is there another way to take advantage of the infinite banking system apart from an IUL?
There are, yes, whole life policies also are another type of cash value life insurance vehicle that you can practice the infinite banking concept with. However, whole life is definitely very outdated. Um, Abraham Lincoln had a whole life policy. That should just tell you how old whole life is. It is a very old product, and the IUL is basically like the revamped, facelifted version of whole life. They are different in their ways, but the way that we practice infinite banking concept, the IUL is definitely the preferred vehicle of choice.
Hmm. Cool. So let's shift gears, man. Now that
Mhm.
now that people have a tool in their
Right.
toolbox to be their own bank and to make money, right? Make more money
Mhm.
because they can have their money making money and then they can use that same money to make more money. That's crazy.
Right,
Let's talk a
right.
little bit more about real estate, man. So with
Yeah,
Rush Capital, what is it that you do? Like what kind of assets do you invest in?
great question. Yeah, so we like to stay in Central Florida and Dallas Fort Worth area and Houston, and we look at multifamily commercial properties. 100 units plus is where we like to stay. And I actually have a business partner. His name is Eric Chatterton, and he does a lot more of like the operations, and actually sourcing our deals, getting the funding for the deals. He is more of like the operations guy. And just with my influence, I have like 500,000 followers on TikTok and everything like that. And I'm definitely more of the capital raisers. That's mainly what I do. Is I just make connections. I network, just like what we were talking about earlier. And I just am the guy who just connects the dots and just sees, what are you able to are you a credit investor, all those types of things.
Cool. So you are you working in any deal right now, in any deal that you make, mm, that you can talk about?
Yeah, specifically right now, no. We just closed on a deal in Dallas, and right now we're actually looking at potentially doing a fund. And so, in terms of am I raising capital for a specific deal right now? No, I'm not. But because I do work with Eric, I always have deal flow coming in, and so yeah.
Hmm. Cool. So, is one of the main reasons you're looking to start a fund because to be on a constant capital raising instead of raising for deal to deal on a deal to deal basis, you can just raise.
No, no, we definitely enjoy it and really do more of traditional syndications, not really funds.
Okay.
It's just that there was this one, connection that we made with an individual who had a massive portfolio with close to 8,000 doors. And so we were thinking about, actually breaking up that deal into a couple of different deals and kind of turning it into a fund. But that's still like in the talks, and we're still kind of trying to make that happen. So I don't want to give too much away, but I could definitely anticipate us actually having that deal, under our wing one day. And so I'm really hoping for that.
Nice, man. So this last deal that you just closed on, can you talk
Mhm.
a little bit about it, just so that people can have an idea as to
Right.
the kind of deals that you invest in?
Yeah, so it was in Dallas, 419 unit property, 52 million. And that was a deal that yeah, we just recently closed on. And if you guys go on my Instagram, I have like a picture of it, like a really cool drone picture. And we just closed a little while ago on that. So yeah.
Cool. So you how much did you raise for that deal? How did you fund it?
Yeah, so that was actually my first one, and it was an IUL client of mine. And he had put in a little bit over $100,000 into his deal, and him and a business partner, he's a software engineer. They went ahead and they both went in at 250, and so it was about half a million. And for most of our deals, we actually go ahead and have it starting either at 100 or 250. And so because of that deal, I was able to be like a GP on that, which is nice.
Hmm. So you raised half a million on that, and then the other 51.5 million came from the bank.
No, no, I was not the only capital raiser on that.
Got it. Okay, got
Or
it. All
like,
right.
or I wasn't the only one who was looking for capital on that.
Yeah.
So, no, yeah, we definitely raised, I want to say over about like 8 million on that.
Okay.
So I wasn't the biggest contributor to it, but definitely still like new in the
Uh-huh.
space. And so it was definitely
Got
a
it.
cool opportunity to get in on that.
Hello, morning kings and queens. At my company, Millionaire Network Automation, we believe in the power of networking. We believe that in real estate, your net worth is your network. This is why we help real estate investors raise capital by connecting them with their ideal investors and helping them build a massive network of their ideal investors in less than 30 days and with only 4 hours of work per week. If you're interested in this, click the link below in the description of this podcast to learn how you can propel your growth with a reliable system that will consistently help you connect with your ideal investors, build trust, add value, get your investors to promote you and put you in front of more of their investor friends, and raise more capital faster and in a much more effortless way so that you can achieve your financial freedom and still have the time and the energy to pour into every single other area of your life. So go watch the training, and you're going to have the opportunity to book a call to talk about how you can get this 100% done for you system implemented in the next 5 days. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later, and enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
Cool. Well, yeah, that's awesome, man. So Rush Capital, is it you who, like, do you have more partners? How does that work?
Yeah, so Rush Capital is just kind of like my front-facing marketing in terms of like the website and everything like that. But all the deals that you see on there are definitely between me and my business partner, Eric. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of those deals, he's my mentor. He's the guy who definitely took me under his wing and everything like that. And so everything that I know is definitely from him. And so his is called Gibby's Capital. And so Gibby's Capital, whenever he needs help with a raise, then he'll reach out to me, which is Rush Capital Partners, right? And so my deal flow comes from Gibby's Capital. And you know, a lot of the time when Eric is raising for a deal, he'll try to capital raise himself. But if he needs a little bit more, then at that point, he'll kind of reach out to me. He'll give me that opportunity to go ahead and raise whatever I can. And then hopefully with the intention of bringing me in as a GP. And then whenever I come in on a deal, then you'll kind of see that like Rush Capital Partners on there as well.
Nice. Okay. So, Ryan, you also have I think you have an interesting book, right, called How to Create Wealth Investing in Multifamily Real Estate. Who is that for, and what are some of the things that you cover in that
Yeah.
booklet?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in that book, I'm basically speaking to individuals that know that they want to get into real estate, but they just don't know what type yet. And so I
Mm,
kind of break down how, you know, the doors concept. How many doors do you want to have, right? Because you can have 419 doors under one roof. Or you could have 419 different single family properties, right? And so I kind of talk about in that book the pros and cons of single family, multifamily. And I also talk about if you are an individual who does make a high net worth, you are an accredited investor, and you're looking to actually reduce your taxable income using a K1 and using the bonus depreciation and all those types of things. I take a deep dive into that as well. And the first couple chapters definitely are talking about the basics of commercial multifamily real estate. And towards the end, I kind of am giving a little bit more of the examples of like the headaches that come with, you know, managing single family versus being just like a straight up passive LP in a syndication deal.
mm. Cool. All right. So lots of information: tax information, commercial real estate,
Mhm.
passive investing. Do you also cover the infinite banking system in there?
I do not. No, no.
Oh,
That
okay.
book is purely just kind of talking about just creating wealth in real estate.
Awesome. And so, let's get started with the um. Wait. Oh, okay. Real estate investing roadblock section, right? Like I talk about there, I implement a couple of minutes to talking about roadblocks and problems that
Hmm.
a lot of real estate
Hmm.
investors may have. The purpose for that is to equip them with the tools and the insights for them to be able to navigate those roadblocks they're going to face a lot better, right? So since you are a capital raiser, let's talk about capital raising, man. So what do you think? How important do you think capital raising is in commercial real estate investing?
It is the most important part for sure,
For sure.
because you can get as many deals under contract as you want, but if you cannot raise capital for them, then you're not going to be able to close, right? And then lenders aren't going to want to lend to you because you can't close. And then you know, you're not going to get pocket listings anymore because the commercial real estate brokers are going to want to give you pocket listings if you can't close, because at the end of the day they want their commission, right? And
Yeah.
so being able to raise capital and close is very, very important. And I think that's why my business partner, Eric, he tries to capital raise himself, but then he leverages people like myself and other people so that he has those people in like in his back pocket, where if he ever needs to, he knows he can just give those people a call or a text, and then they're going to bring in that extra capital that he needs, which I think is very smart and very responsible being a GP.
Yeah. So basically shares a piece of the pie and then gives the other people the opportunity to come into the deal. Yeah, for sure. It's very
100%.
smart. Um so what in your experience, man, working with other capital raisers and you yourself raising capital, what do you think is like the number one obstacle or challenge that is faced when capital raising?
Absolutely. I think that the biggest issue for me was getting past feeling like you're kind of bothering people asking them for money. I
Yeah.
I was hesitant reaching out to family members and business associates and or people who I had a business relationship with, simply because I didn't want them to feel like I was just reaching out to them just to ask them for money so that I could become a GP on a deal,
Yeah.
right? I definitely, the biggest hurdle for me was how could I position myself and position the conversation to where I'm reaching out to you because I want to provide you with value, not I'm reaching out to you because I want money so that I can get into a deal, right? And so that was a big mindset shift for me. And honestly, I just read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, and that took a ton of weight off my shoulders. That made that like changed the lens in which I viewed how I approached people and how I kind of started the conversation. That initial conversation of trying to get a raise.
Mm. Cool. So apart from reading the book, man, um, like what were some of the things that you did or you realized that really helped you change your perspective and how you looked at raising capital from like, oh, I'm just talking to people because I want money from them so that I can be a GP to I'm actually going to help you. Like what are some of the things that you did or that you realized that helped you have that mindset shift?
Yeah, well, the things that helped were definitely the book, but also actually before you reach out to somebody, think about some of the last things you spoke about them about. What were some of the goals or some of the ambitions or some of the things that you knew that they were trying to tackle or that they were trying to execute? And then try to see if what you are providing can provide value to that goal, right? So for example, like if I had a buddy or if I had a business partner or someone who I knew that wanted to have a net worth of like $1 million, right? That's
Yeah.
something that they had voiced to me the last time that we had a conversation. Then I would reach out and just be like, hey man, remember last time that, we were hanging out, we went here, there, whatever, and you're talking about that, hitting that net worth. How's that been? Are you getting closer to that? Just simple things like that. And then you could just bring it up like, hey, I got an opportunity for you. Like, I want to help you reach this goal. I thought of you right away, just because, like I care about you, and here's the opportunity. And then boom, you kind of just lay it out. But in terms of what helped me in was just repetition, just getting practice in, getting that seat time, getting those repetitions in, and literally just texting every single person that I knew who was an accredited investor, and making more connections, going to real estate and networking events. Luckily, I live here in New York City, Manhattan, so there are a ton of real estate
For
network
sure.
events out here. Got an entire like just deck of cards of business cards behind me from just going to these events here, and just making connections and then just seeing how I could provide value, just trying to provide as much value as possible. And then from there, it just gets easier to provide value, just like anything else. You do it enough times, it just continues to get easier and easier and easier.
Hmm. Yeah. And then another thing is that you need to believe in the deal, right? Like is if you
Oh,
are
absolutely. You got to have that conviction, man.
for
100%.
sure, right? Because like I think that's one of the main things that makes a lot of real estate investors feel like they are taking away from people rather than adding to them, right? Like the
Hmm.
fact that they actually don't believe in the deal, right? It's like they haven't done the due diligence, the homework. They don't they just want to raise capital. So I think that is a huge thing or a huge reason why a capital raiser would feel like, oh, I'm taking away from you instead of adding, right? Like not doing the due diligence,
Yeah.
not really believing in the deal, not really believing in the general partner or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Or not even like definitely not believing in it, but also just not knowing enough about the deal to feel like confident in it, whether or not it's a good deal or not, right? It's not knowing like whether it's good or not because you haven't done the underwriting. You just kind of took, that person's word for it that it's a good deal and stuff like that. And so um, doing the due diligence, having the knowledge on the specific deal, knowing it's going to perform, and knowing that you guys are showing numbers where you're under promising, but you're more than likely going to over deliver, just helps build that conviction. And that conviction definitely is a huge just jolt, or just a huge confidence booster when you're actually talking to your potential investors, and they see that, like they can tell the way you're talking about it. Does this person have conviction in this deal or not? And a lot of people go on feeling, right? Or like
Yeah,
on a gut feeling,
for sure. Well, that's why people buy, right? Like, well, that's one of the reasons, one of the main reasons
Yeah,
why people buy, right? Because of
you right.
emotion. So, okay, so we talked about like putting in the reps, right? Doing the work of like reaching out to people that you know, texting them, um, helping them connect the dots of like having that real estate investment being a key to what they said they wanted, to their goals. And
Mhm.
then the other thing is actually doing your due diligence, right? Like um, getting informed on how the underwriting happened, and really doing the homework when it comes to getting to know the deal deeply. Is there anything else, man, that you see capital raisers struggle to raise capital? Struggle with to raise capital?
Yeah, I think that they have like for beginners, they have a scarcity mindset, so that they don't think that there's any money out there to be raised, because their first 10 people they ask are like, "Oh, I don't have money for that."
Yeah.
When in fact there is more than enough money out there for the raise that you're looking for. And you need to have that abundance mindset. You have to know that the money is out there, and you have to know that it's obtainable. Some people, you tell them they need to raise $2 million, and some people are like, "Oh, that's easy," and some people are like, "What? How that is impossible. How are you going to ask me to do that? That is like that like And so that is such a mindset shift. And I think that if you are going to be a capital raiser, or if you're going to try to get into capital raising as your ticket to become like a GP on these deals without putting in your own money, then you need to just understand and know that like these individuals are looking for you. They're looking for a way to reduce their taxable income. They have too much money, and they don't know, they have too much money to know what to do with, right? And
Yeah.
some of them don't even know that a syndication deal exists. There have been so many people who I've talked to who have a boatload of money, but have not gone into real estate because they don't want another full-time job. And then you tell them what a syndication deal is, and they're like, "This is literally what I've been looking for. Something that is 110% hands off. I don't have to do anything other than just due diligence on the deal. And then from there, I just hand over my capital, and now I'm getting my cash flow."
Yeah. It's life changing for a lot of people, and it's weird that a lot of people don't know about it, right? So
So many people don't know about it. It's
and actually, man,
very similar to the IUL,
IUL, yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, man, scare. I mean, I've done a lot of thinking on this. Like, I've put a lot of thought into it, and there's two root causes for, I don't want to say all, but like most limiting beliefs, right? Like, there's two
Mhm.
root causes for most limiting beliefs, and that's scarcity and not being good enough. That's literally it, man.
Mm,
And then like, tell me whatever limiting belief you've may have encountered in your life, and you could probably trace it back to scarcity and not being, or not being good enough,
exactly.
right? So
Exactly. Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah.
like one example is simple, like not niching down in a business. I don't know, maybe
Mhm.
you've had an experience with this. You started your business and you wanted to sell to everyone. Everyone was your client, but then you realize that you would be better off if you niche down in a on a specific group of people, right? Until you master that, and then you can expand. But the reason why most business owners or entrepreneurs don't niche down, don't want to like niche down on a specific avatar, is because they don't think it's enough. Like they don't think there are enough of those, and then that's why, like for example, an
Yeah.
agency, digital marketing agency who serves everyone, right? Like the reason they don't niche down is because they don't think it's enough, man. Which is
Right.
crazy. Like if you're selling a $5,000 thing, you just need to sell 20 of those things to be at 100K, right? And like,
Right.
don't you think there's 20 dentists?
Yeah.
There are, right? Like there's
Yeah.
no reason why you should be targeting everyone. So, and it comes down to scarcity, and then every single other limiting belief that you may have, man, comes back to that. That was just something interesting that I wanted
Yeah.
to leave you
Yeah. And
with.
absolutely. And Alex Ramosi says this all the time, how exactly what you said. They don't think they're good enough, right?
Yeah.
And they quit right away because they start something and they're not good at it. Well, at the end of the day, there's not a single thing in which you'll start in life that you're just gonna be good at. Like you're not born with skills. You have to develop skills. You weren't born and knew how to walk. You weren't born and knew how to talk. When you first started learning how to talk, you were horrible at it. When you first started learning how to walk, you were not good at it. And so just breaking it down to the familiar and just breaking it down to like the ridiculous in terms of being like, well, duh, of course I'm gonna be horrible at this. I'm brand new at it. What other outcome did you expect? And
Yeah.
there's a suck period in everything that you ever start. And it's just like fail fast and fail forward so that that sucking period is as short as possible so that then you can actually start getting good, right?
Hmm.
And that's the hard reality is that you have to go into pretty much any new endeavor that you start knowing that there's going to be a sucking period, and that the faster you get out of that first section, the faster that you're going to get hit with success.
Awesome. So for any active investor out there who is looking to raise capital, there you go. We just talked for the last like 5-10 minutes on how to get better raising capital. Fail fast. Ask your friends and family. Text everyone, and all the things that we mentioned, right? So develop an abundance mentality. So man, you mentioned right now using raising capital as your ticket to being a general partner. Can you talk to me about, because it sounds like you've done that. So can you talk to me about how any other person out there who's thinking about becoming an active real estate investor but doesn't really know how, and then they're listening to this podcast and they're like, oh, I can I can buy my way into a general partner in a deal by raising capital. Could you talk to me a little bit more about that, please?
Absolutely. So this kind of, funny enough, comes back down to having a scarcity mindset and people feeling defeated and having self-limited beliefs and thinking that they can never get into a real estate deal and that they can never get into like a syndication deal because they're not an accredited investor and they don't have a ton of money, right? But there are creative ways to get into every single deal, right? And so a creative way to get into a deal is by, again, back to what we were talking about earlier, providing value. So how can you provide value to a GP? Well, you can help them bring X amount of dollars to a deal. You helped close the deal. You brought value to the deal. And so therefore you should get a piece of the deal. And so every GP or every operator is a little bit different in terms of how much you need to bring into the deal to actually become a GP. For some people it's 500,000. For some people it's 1 million. For some people it's 250. Right. But I will say generally from what I've seen, most operators are gonna want you to raise at least 500,000 before they think about bringing you on as a GP. And so that is, if you're somebody who's really eager about going all in into real estate and you want a way to get into real estate without putting any of your own money down, then that's a way that you can do that. Provide value, raise capital, raise enough capital to become a general partner, and now you own a little piece of the pie as well.
Mm, awesome. So how is the piece of that pie determined?
Yeah, just on between all the individuals who actually went ahead and raised capital, right? There is that split, right? So traditionally, about 35% for our deals, about 35% goes to the capital raisers, and then within that 35%, it's like, okay, out of everyone who raised capital, then they kind of divvy it up that way, and then that
Yeah,
kind of depends on how many people are in the deal, how many capital raisers, all that type of stuff.
got it. Well, awesome, man. We have a couple of minutes, so I end my podcast with a couple of questions. The first one is, let me just take them out really quick. The first one is, what is a false belief, man, that you may have had, and that you see a lot of other real estate investors having, that holds them back?
A false belief. Okay. And specifically related to real estate?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, I would say that a false belief um, is that real estate is only for the wealthy. I don't I think that no matter where you come from, what your net worth is at, like I said, there are creative ways to get into deals, right? So it all comes down to creative financing, creative deal structure, like all these types of things. You do not have to be rich to get into real estate. Um, and another one would be that real estate is just another full time job. It is actually, it kind of blows my mind how many people I've come across and they refuse to touch real estate because they don't want to manage it. They don't want to. And then you just simply break it down to them as, well, if you want to be in single family, just hire a management, company. If you want to be into commercial, then I would recommend a syndication deal so that you can be an LP and then you're out.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So it's not just for the rich, right? Again, it comes back
Hmm.
to scarcity, and not look thinking that you're not good enough, right? So
Yes.
awesome. And on the other side, on the flip side of the coin, what is an empowering belief that you think you should develop to be successful in real estate and creating wealth?
Yeah, confidence. You need to be able to walk into a networking event knowing that you are a high value individual and that you can provide value and that you deserve to be there.
Hmm.
And you should create content with confidence, knowing that you know about real estate, that you can talk about certain topics, that you are providing value in the form of content and education to people. I think it definitely boils down to confidence because um, confidence is just a way of you expressing your self love and that you know that you can provide value.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the opposite of thinking you're not good enough. Right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, that was great, man. So my last question is, what is a building relationships? Real estate and creating wealth is basically about building relationships, networking and all of that, right? If you want to raise capital, find deals and have good partners, you got to build relationships and network and all of that. So what is a successful strategy, man, that you've used to be able to build relationships and build a network effectively?
Yeah. So a tool that I've used is social media. Has been a huge way of connecting with people. And the second half to that answer is to educate, right? So a lot of people miss out on opportunities because they don't know what they don't know. And
Hmm.
so through social media and through educating, um, you open up the doors for a lot of people that door would have never opened if you would have never sat down and made that piece of content and clicked post, which is super cool. And people, through the law of reciprocity, because you provided them with value, inherently feel that they should give it back.
Hmm.
Even if it's super small, whether it's in the form of a like or in the form of a follow or in the form of reaching out and DMing you and being like, hey man, thanks for that video. I'm gonna like go out and do this or do XYZ, right? Or then it kind of turns into something a little bit further and you guys happen to live in the same town or the same city and you guys meet up for, coffee or something like that. Everything for me personally, the way that I've built a lot of my connections is it all started from social media and creating educational type content. And then from there, then turned into like a Zoom. Then from there, it turned into like an actual friendship. And then from there, then it turned into, hey, you know what my goals are. I know what your goals are. And when anything comes across us that we think could provide the other person with value, we'll reach out to them and be like, hey man, this just hit my desk. I think this could help you. Or vice versa. They'll reach out to me and be like, hey man, I know that you're trying to accomplish XYZ. I think that this might help you. And then
Mm.
that just kind of builds that relationship and it just continues to get better and better and better with time.
So educating through content, right? Which is what we're doing here,
Yeah.
right? Basically.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah. And you're really good at that, man. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, you're really good at that. So Ryan, is there like what is the best way, for anyone who may want to learn more about an IUL, they may want to become their own bank, or someone who may want to invest in a deal, or they just want to get connected with you, ask you some questions, they like you or whatever. What would be the best place for them to connect with you, man?
Right. The best place to connect with me would be on my Instagram, and it's just called Ryan the Wealth Strategist.
Okay.
And in terms of, and then just shoot me a DM if you want to connect with me. In terms of actually educating yourself further on syndication deals and or the IUL, my YouTube channel is also just called Ryan the Wealth Strategist. And then
Okay.
you can watch those videos there. I have specific playlists talking about the IUL and commercial multifamily real estate.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll have all of those things linked wherever this podcast appears. It was great talking to you, man. Getting to know you, getting to learn from you as well. And you're welcome.
Absolutely,
I mean,
Alex.
thank you for being on the show, man.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I hope that I was able to provide some value to your viewers. And thank you so much for offering me the platform to come on and speak. And I'm very excited to see where this podcast goes. I think you're doing great things. I see that you've been very consistent. I've been very busy, and we still made it. We still made it work. And again, thank you for having me on, man.
Thank you. See you later, man.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate you, and we're super grateful about being part of your journey of becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur and having it all. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will be impacted positively. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be across all areas. And if you thought this episode was really valuable, share it on your